Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing an Infernoble Knight deck profile. So this is a really awesome deck that is kind of like a play on the Noble Knights, but on fire, essentially, which is really cool. And it's actually been a little bit since I profiled this deck, and it's still a really awesome deck, even though we've seen cards like VFD and Link Cross, where we can't play those key combo pieces and inboard makers in this deck anymore, which is just a little bit of a shame, but at the same time, this deck is still really, really good to be able to summon out some really amazing cards, because we still have Infernoble Knight, Emperor Charles, which is a really awesome card in this deck, and I have some really interesting text to make this deck really insane. So, without further ado, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell in there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description below for all those awesome rewards, like getting your name screwed for every single video, getting a signed card to the mail, or even getting to request a deck profile every single month to your patron, along with test hands. So, without further ado, let's get straight on into this. So, first off, we're going to be playing 3 copies of Infernoble Knight Oliver. So, Infernoble Knight Oliver is a really important card in this deck. That basically what this card does is when this card is an equipped card, your opponent cannot target the equipped monster with card effects. You only use the following effect of this card once per turn. You can send in a Fire Warrior monster or an equipped spell from your hand or face and field to the graveyard to special summon this card from your hand as a level 1 monster. And if this card is in your graveyard, you can target one Fire Warrior monster or any warrior monster you control and equip this card to that monster, which is a very, very powerful effect just to be able to give you an additional monsters and equip, and it's a great combo piece as well. We then play 3 copies of my personal favorite, and it's 3 copies of Infernoble Knight Renault. So Renault is a really awesome card, and I actually splash this card into a lot of different decks. But basically what it does is if you control a Fire Warrior monster, you can instantly special summon this card from your hand. And if this card is summoned this way, it's treated as a tuner monster, and you only use the effect of this card once per turn. And if this card is special summoned, then you can target one of your Fire Warrior monsters or an equipped spell in your graveyard that's banished or in your graveyard except another copy of itself, and add it back to your hand, which is a very powerful effect just to be able to get you an additional monster on your side of the field, and it's a great extender. This card is fantastic in this deck. We then play 2 copies of Infernoble Knight Ogier. This card is really cool too because it's a neat card. I like this card at 2. I've seen a lot of people play this at 1, and I really feel like it's a 2 of, because what it does is when this card is an equipped card, the equipped monster cannot be destroyed by card effects, and you only effect this card once per turn. And if this card is normal or special summon, then you can send one Noble Arms or Fire Warrior monster, except another copy of itself, from your deck to the graveyard. And if this card's in the graveyard, you can target a Fire Warrior monster you control and equip this card to it, which is a very good effect. Just to be able to equip this card to a card is just really nice. We then play the Honorary Infernoble Knight, which is 2 copies of Immortal Phoenix Gearfried. I'm playing this card at 2 because I don't special summon it as often as I used to with to get VFD off, and I can search this card out with my Isolde anyways, and so it's really just a 2-0 to me. You can even bump it down to 1 if you only have 1 copy of this card, but it's a really good 2-0 in this deck, and I really like playing 2 because I want to see it, but I don't want to see it all the time. I want to be able to search it sometimes. We then play 3 copies of Super Quantum Red Layer. Red Layer is also a very good card. It's basically a Cyber Dragon in the deck that you can just special summon it to your side of the field, which is a really awesome effect if you control no monsters. I love that effect, just to be able to give you an additional monster on your side of the field. We then play 2 copies of Fire Flint Lady. Fire Flint Lady is just a great extender in this deck that if you control a warrior, you can just instantly special summon it from your hand to your side of the field. And then you can also send this card from your field to the grave to special summon a level 4 or lower warrior monster from your hand. But the main reason for this card is it just is a Fire Warrior extender. We then play 3 copies of our Neospatian Connector. This is your main normal summon of the deck because it's going to help you get into Isolde the majority of the time. When you normal summon this card, you can special summon out your Aqua Dolphin. Aqua Dolphin is actually a decent normal summon in this deck because it can once per turn, you can discard a card, look at your opponent's hand, choose a monster, and if you choose a monster with attack greater than this card or equal to this card, the chosen card, you destroy the chosen card. So it's a really good card to be able to just look at your opponent's hand and see what kind of hand traps they have. And it's a really good out to a lot of different stuff that your opponent might have. We then play for our tuner monsters. I'm playing a single copy of Genba. Genba is just a level 2 tuner monster that's a Fire Warrior monster, which is why I'm playing it as a 1-of in here. 1 copy of Despot 01 for the Auroradon combos. 1 copy of Coltwing for the Auroradon combos. And then for my hand traps, I'm going to be playing 3 copies of Gamma, which Gamma is just really, really good in this deck to be able to stop all the different shenanigans that your opponent's going to be going up against you with. And a single copy of Driver. This is really helpful to go into your Gamma Driver. And if you get pushed to go second, because the majority of the time, if you lose game 1 or you win game 1, you're probably going to get pushed to go second. because of the hand rip that this deck can still do. And then using this is just really, really good to be able to just go into your copy of Omega to get a card out of your opponent's hand. Plus, if they try and negate a search card, you can just Gamma Driver them, which is really important. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. So for the spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Call by the Grave because we can only play one copy of Call by the Grave, but this card is really, really good in this deck just to be able to stop our opponent from doing anything against us. It's essentially like a fifth, or a fourth, excuse me, Gamma, because it's just going to stop hand traps. One copy of Rhoda. Rhoda is really good because it's a warrior deck, so this card is really good at helping you stop your opponent from basically, or not stop your opponent, but get your warriors to your hand. One copy of Monster Reborn because it's a great extender. This card wins games on its own. And then for the equip spells, we're going to be playing a single copy of Divine Sword Phoenix Blade. Because it is an Azul deck, you're going to probably play the Divine Sword Phoenix Blade because it's one of the best equip spells. One of Metal Silver Armor. Now this is a really interesting card. And if you guys might see this card and be like, wow, why are you playing that? Well, the reason you play this is as long as you control the monster, or as long as you control the monster equipped with this card, your opponent cannot use the effects of spell traps or monster effects that specifically designate one monster, including monsters in the graveyard other than the equipped monster. So basically, your opponent can only target the monster that's equipped with Metal Silver Armor. So the really neat thing about this card is if you have Emperor Charles on your side of the field and you equip this to it, you can soft lock your opponent with Oliver and Metal Silver Armor, because Oliver says, hey, you can't target this, and then this says, hey, you have to target this, to basically make sure where your opponent's all their targeting effects are totally useless, because they have to target this, but they can't target it at the same time, so it kind of soft locks them down with Metal Silver Armor, which is a really neat little combo in this deck, and I really love that play. Especially if you can end on that, it's really easy to, because if you Isolde, send this to grave, and then Renault grab it back, it's really easy just to get this card to on top of your Oliver, or on top of your Charles, because you're usually going to have an Oliver in graveyard anyways during end phase. We then play a single copy of DDR. DDR is just a one-of in this deck because I'm not playing Power Tool Dragon in this build. You don't really need, if you're not playing Power Tool Dragon, you can play less equip spells because you're not searching them, and you're just looking for it as an Isolde package. So I'm just playing one DDR in my build because I didn't want to play it at 50 like I was. I'm playing this deck at 40 now, so I've cut a bunch of the equip spells out. We then play Double Living Fossil because it's just a great extender. It can grab you a lot of different cards in the deck, or not the deck, but the graveyard, to be able to have as an extenders, because it's basically like Monster Reborn for level 4s or lowers. I played it too because I don't mind drawing it, because it's basically like Monster Reborn. If I do draw into it, it's fine. If I don't and I use it on Isolde, it's also fine, but it's just a really good card. I don't mind seeing this in my hand, so I played as a 2-of. We then play 3 copies of Durandal. Durandal is really good because when this card is equipped to a monster, you can add a level 5 or lower Fire Warrior monster from your deck to your hand, and then you destroy this card. And if this card is sent to the graveyard because it was equipped to a monster, or the equipped monster is sent to the graveyard, you can target one level 5 or lower Fire Warrior monster in the grave, special summon it, and also you cannot special summon monster for the rest of the turn except for Warrior monsters. Not that big of a deal because the majority of the stuff in the main deck is Warriors, but it starts to get a problem when you get into the extra deck because the extra deck is all over the place. We then play 3 copies of Heritage of the Chalice. Heritage of the Chalice lets us add a Noble Knight, which your Infernoble Knights work with that, and it lets you add a copy of a Noble Arms, which your Durandal counts because it's an Infernoble Arms, so it counts as a Noble Arms in the name, so you can use this to search your copies of your Noble Knights, or your Infernoble Knights, and your Infernoble Arms, which is really cool. I love that effect. This card is really, 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 really good in this deck, and I really love playing Heritage, because Heritage is just ridiculous in this deck. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing one of our big boss monsters, which is Emperor Charles. Emperor Charles is probably one of the best cards in the entire extra deck. It's a card you usually want to end on, because what this card does is if an equipped card becomes equipped to this card on the field, even during the damage step, you can destroy a card on the field. And then during the end phase, you can equip one equip spell from your hand or graveyard to this card, and then you can equip one Fire Warrior monster from your field to the deck to this card as an equip spell that gives it an additional 500. So that's why summoning this card and then having Meta Silver Armor onto this card and an Oliver is just really easy, because basically all you have to do is just summon it and then you can go into that play. We then play a single copy of one Captain Roland. Roland is good as a one-of because if this card is Synchro Summon, you can activate the effect that during the end phase of this turn, you can send a equip spell from your deck to the graveyard and then add a warrior monster from your deck to your hand. And then during the main phase, if this card's in your graveyard, you can quick effect, target a warrior monster you control, and equip it to that monster. So basically what this card does for the deck is if you have your copy of your Charles on your side of the field and this is in the graveyard, then you can equip this to the Charles during your opponent's turn because it says during the main phase, and it's a disruption because it pops something against your opponent, which is really nice. One copy of Omega because it can rip cards out of your opponent's hand. Borreload Savage because it's an additional negation against your opponent as well. Shooting Riser Dragon. I play Riser Dragon in the deck because Riser is just really good with Needle Fiber to be able to summon this card really easily. One copy of Underworld Fighter. Underworld Fighter is good in this deck too because the Underworld Fighter is just really nice because when it's destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, you can target one level 4 or lower monster in the grave and accept this card and special summon it, which is a really awesome effect in this deck to be able to do that because it's really easy to pop cards. One copy of Herald because Herald is just really good to make with your Auroradon plays as an additional negation. And then for the Link monsters, we're playing a single copy of Access Code, which can be Borreload or Boral Sword if you want to change it out to make the deck a little bit more budget, because this deck is a little bit more budget friendly compared to what it used to be. So you can change this out for a copy of your a copy of Borreload or Boral Sword. I will say if you change it out for Borreload, it's a little bit easier to out Dragoons, but it's totally up to you. One copy of Appaloosa because Appaloosa is really easy to give you additional negations. One copy of Mecha Phantom Beast. Auroradon. Auroradon is really good for the Auroradon combos that you can go into in this deck. Basically, you Needle Fiber, you get Despot 01. You summon the 3 tokens onto your side of the field after you link the Despot 01 and the Needle Fiber way for this card. And then once you do that, the sky's the limit on what you can synchro for. It's just really nice. One copy of Unicorn because it spins stuff. 2 copies of Isolde because Isolde is ridiculous in this deck. Isolde just gives you so much advantage in this deck. Like this is the main card you're going to be summoning. This and Charles is the main ones that you summon in the deck all the time. One copy of Needle Fiber because it's just full combo with this card. Like, you can do anything you want with this card. Once you summon this or Isolde, like, you've gone off in the deck. And that it just snowballs from there. From these 2 cards, it just goes off. And then I'm doing something a little bit different in this build. I'm actually playing a Masquerena because Masquerena you can make and then end with Masquerena. And then if your opponent starts to out one of your cards, you can link it away for an Appaloosa to give you additional negations. Or you can use your copy of Unicorn as an additional disruption against your opponent. So it's a little neat tech that I'm playing around with the IP in the deck. You can play stuff like Power Tool, but Power Tool will increase the amount of equip spells you're going to need to play. And you need to play an additional 2 DDRs and at least maybe 1 more Living Fossil, and then you could change this out for Power Tool very easily and change it to a Power Tool build as well. And you could also change out if you wanted to the Appaloosa, and you could play a Draco Sack in the deck, so you can go to the Draco Sack combos as well with your copy of your Despot 01 and your Auroradon. So it's totally up to you how you want to play the deck, but those are just some little suggestions that you can change the deck up just a little bit, where you can actually make the deck a little bit different of a deck. So that's it for the deck, guys. It's a really fun deck to play with. I highly recommend if you guys have never tried Infernoble Knights, you definitely should. It's a lot more budget than it used to be because of Link Cross and VFD being not around anymore, unfortunately. Well, fortunately for VFD. But it's a little bit more budget than it was, which is really cool. So you guys should definitely give this deck a try. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.